the basketball team is where it is. Fans are thinking to themselves, oh, great, here we go again. And we're kind of right back into that same storyline, just hoping for a different finish this time around.
Yeah, and it doesn't really happen. Something has got to change. It's got to be a little bit different. And I don't know what that is. And maybe that is somebody like a Jim Center. He just comes in with a different way of doing things. But ultimately, Tim Floyd's going to have to catch a break at some point. It's got to happen. We know he's a good coach, but if it doesn't happen, it's just going to continue to be the same thing over and over.
Exactly right. And again, when the fans have seen it so many times, the hard part is getting them to buy in if ultimately every season resembles each other. That's the hardest part. And that's kind of what we're at right now once again. But that's a microcosm of an athletic department that has struggled with the Olympic sports, minus a few.
Yeah.
And they're also, right now, struggling to connect with its fan base and its students. Things that ultimately will all go in as one, but right now, there's just a lot of work that needs to be done in so many different areas.
You talk about the students, and I think that's the biggest thing. UTEP, as we all know, is a commuter campus. It's always been that way. But I think one of the things about the University of Texas in El Paso is it's proven in the past that it can connect with its students. There about 10 years ago, I believe it was Todd Wired. Todd Wired with the athletic department had an initiative. Like, he went on campus and they recruited kids to come out and be a part of the athletic experience, and that worked really well. But that kind of went by the wayside. Things change, attitudes change. Now you look at the student section. I know that the students pay a fee to get their tickets. There's never anybody there.
No, and yet going to Las Cruces Saturday, seeing the fans and the turnout for the game with the Miners from the Aggies, seeing what they had for the Lobos, and realizing what they are trying to do over there and how they're getting their students involved and getting them to buy in. That's what it takes. You got to connect with that part and then let it all trickle down from there, because students are key. They make up such a big part of the campus experience and the campus life.
Well, it is. It's the college experience, and that's one of the things New Mexico has. Is it's not a commuter school. There are people who commute from El Paso to go to school in New Mexico State, but there are a lot of campus students who are on campus or near campus. It is a very different thing. So a little bit different of an experience. But if you take the initiative and go get those people, I think it can happen. UTEP has shown it can happen here. It just has not over the last, I would say, 6, 7, 8 years. It's been pretty poor.
No, I would agree with that. Once again, still waiting for a new director of athletics, Jim Center. Usually the way this works, folks, is he takes care of all the television media that's assembled.
Right.
And then, since we're the only live game in town, guess what that means, folks? You save the best for last. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
There we go. So, the best for last.
The good news is we're not going anywhere. We're set up here in the main office right behind the desk, and to be honest, I've got no plans till 4 o'clock when I'm live at Border City Ale House. Duke's going back to the station after we're done, so if it takes an extra 15, 20 minutes, so be it. Matter of fact, let's do this. Let's get all of our commercials out. So when Jim Center comes here, we don't have to take a break.
I think that's a good idea.
We'll do that. So we'll take our final break of the hour, come back, and then, folks, you're stuck with us until the new director of athletics arrives as we continue broadcasting live from the Larry Durham Center. Along with Duke Heath, I'm Steve Kaplowitz here on 600. It's ESPN El Paso.
What is his salary? That's a good question. Yeah, we don't know.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
No, they didn't make that.
Right.
They didn't make that official. So I don't know.
No, that's true. This thing is. It's a lovely thing, but there we go. That's better.
Good.
That's better. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, we got 16.
We'll hang out.
We got 16 viewers.
We got 16 viewers. It's not
good.
bad.
It's good. Too bad you can't pause it.
Right.
That
would be helpful.
How long is this break, Sal? 4 minutes? Beautiful. That'll work. That should give us plenty of time. I'm in no hurry. And we don't have another break again until 15, or 20, so we'll have plenty of time. Have the ID ready, so I might fire the 10-second legal near the top of the hour, and that's about all I need, okay? Perfect.
Engelman, pay him in Lucy's. Nice, John. We see you. What do you think it'll be? Who do you think would be a candidate for football head coach? I don't know what contacts he has.
Well, let's put it this way. Mike Houston is coaching James Madison. He won the national championship last year. He was at the Citadel as the head coach prior to, from 2014 to 2015, while he was there. So you would have to figure he'd be a logical name just because of their relationship and what he was able to do. The question is, will he be able to provide that same kind of success in El Paso running a spread option the way he has out in James Madison, and he ran the triple option in the Citadel?
They're going to have to, and I thought Brett's piece today talking about what they're going to have to. They are going to have to put up with local transfers.
They have.
They have no choice.
Unless they tank for the first couple of years and just decide to bear with us while we build it the right way and just try and just take time to do it the way we need to. You never know.
No, you don't. Can you hear? I can't hear return. Oh, that's why.
You're down.
There we go.
Now you got it. Perfect.
Yeah, I had my.
You got it.
I was like, how did he know to come back from break?
I would think Kevin Sumlin is out of the question. Did you see Kevin Baker's tweet yesterday?
Kevin Baker?
The women's basketball coach?
No.
As a beloved Aggies fan, I'd like to say that $10 million is, a pretty good amount of money, and you'll be named the next head coach at Arizona State today. It was a really interesting tweet.
How about that? I didn't know. Was he an Aggie?
I don't know, but he loves the Aggies because he said he's a diehard Aggies fan.
That's interesting. Sumlin, yeah, he's going to go to. I think you're right. I think he's going to go to ASU. That's what I've heard.
It makes sense.
It'd be good to get the basketball tournament back here. No, Sumlin.
I love this. Look at this thing. Congratulations, viewers. No, the trade-in paid off my vehicle. Not me. That was Shamali Ford who paid off.
That's
my
hilarious.
Vehicle. Oh yeah. Thank you. It's nice to know that they believe I paid off my vehicle.
That'll work. Jim Mora.
Jeez. That would be a Bob Stoll favorite.
Yeah, that'd be if Bob Stoll could pull that off, maybe. None of those guys is going to come here for less than 7 figures, and that's what the job is going to be. You're going
to have to pay $1 million to get anybody, really. Yeah. I mean, and that includes Houston, believe it or not. James Madison is paying him $375 base plus about $85,000 in bonuses at James Madison.
So he's basically making what Kugler
in FCS. He's making Kugler money. Yeah.
All right. Art Riles, please.
No, I mentioned integrity. That's out.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Along with Dookie, Steve Kaplowitz with you here at the Durham Center. We're broadcasting live today as Jim Center was introduced as UTEP's newest director of athletics, replacing the retiring Bob Stoll. And right now, Jim is still involved in his television interviews, and then he'll come to the hot seat for a few minutes and spend a little time with us. But again, if you listened to the hour-long coverage that we've had since 2 o'clock, very positive, which is what you would expect. Somebody who believes in his attitude, action, accountability, his AAA philosophy. He's also wanting to respect everyone. He's a big believer in integrity. He mentioned that for his head coach, he wants great integrity. And I'll tell you something right now. That pretty much eliminates Art Briles and Kendall Briles from the equation, because you're not going to bring the Briles family here if you're stating in your introductory press conference it's all about integrity.
Yeah, and I know the people have been bringing up Art Briles forever, and he was revolutionary, honestly. He jumped from high schools to the University of Houston and did a really great job. I mean, the offense that he had out there every year was it just rolled, and he earned himself the Baylor job, but there is no way, after what happened at that school, what continues to be revealed about what went on at Baylor, that somebody like Art Briles would ever be able to get a job here. Plus, again, none of these guys who've worked at that level is necessarily going to want to take a job where you're going to get paid less than 7 figures for what you do.
That's very true. And that's ultimately, that's the reality of this UTEP job now is, guess what? If you really want to attract a name as a football coach and bring in somebody that will do everything right, you're going to have to buy in and suddenly double what you've been paying. And, he mentioned that Center was told as he was applying for this job that UTEP would be competitive in salary. Now, competitive in salary is not $500,000.
No.
That's competitive with
That's
top
low.
FCS programs, but that's not competitive with FBS. So it's one of the lowest in college football. So you have to bump it up if you're going to think anybody is going to want to come here and transform this program.
Well, honestly, and Brett Bloomquist brought up that question in the question and answer period with Jim Center, and that was that it was going to take, the average salary is like $900,000. So that's the average in Conference USA. So that's what it's going to have to be if they're going to attract somebody with a head coaching record anywhere outside of maybe an FCS or Division II. That's the thing. UTEP, I think, has done well recently, and Kevin Baker is showing himself to be the head women's basketball coach for the undefeated UTEP Miners. This is a guy who earns. Well, he earns what he earns, and he doesn't earn Keith Adams money, but he was brought in from a lower division of college sports. It's Mike Price making faces at us over there. Brought in from a lower division of college sports, and has won at every level he's been at. High school, Division II, Division I AA. Every step of the way, he's won. And Jim Center, here's another guy who's been making his way through the lower ranks of the NCAA. I would imagine he's going to be very open to finding a football coach who wants to do the same thing, wants to make the jump from FCS or 1AA to FBS or 1A.
That's true. I was just told by UTEP that Jim Center would not have a lot of time for us and that today was not a good day. This comes after we agreed to go live and was promised to have an opportunity to talk to him face to face. Now, as far as I'm concerned, we will not go off air until we have the man for a few minutes. So I am not planning on cutting this broadcast short. And for our listeners out there, they've been hanging with us all hour, waiting for the one-on-one like we have. And we've very patiently been here live covering this whole thing since before it started. You would hope that they would bring the man out here. Not always not a good way to get things started with the only local game in town that talks about them and actually cares enough to want to do something like this.
Yeah, I understand talking to the TV guys and stuff like that because they're taped, they got to get stuff moving, whatever. We're patiently waiting.
That's right. And we will continue to.
He's still over there.
Yes, this is
He's at a gaggle, as they call it, a gaggle.
Our coverage should be brought to you by Snickers because we're not going anywhere for a while. And in all honesty, we are going to stay at. We'll eat a whole case of those Snickers bars until we get Jim Center on the show. And
Jim Center may want to be brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Want to get away?
Yes.
No, we're the Snickers. We're waiting.
That is really true. So anyway, and we understand that he is supposed to be meeting with Bob Stoll and Chris Park and get the lowdown, which I understand. But you know what? At the same time, as much as UTEP is trying to avoid this particular conversation, we're not going to hammer the guy. We're just going to ask him some questions that weren't necessarily brought up in the press conference and get some answers and go from there. So
right.
I think that's all that matters.
Well, and I think real key, and a lot of people was touched on a little bit, and everybody wants to know about the football coach. But honestly, I think the bigger question is how do you engage the fan base in El Paso to get what you want? We've seen the stadium filled. We've seen it with 52,000 people here at the Sun Bowl. We're in the Durham Center. We've seen the Don Haskins Center filled, although it's been a long time since that's happened, at least consistently. It happens every once in a while. But, yeah, that's the main question. How do you engage those not hardcore fans who show up for everything?
Very true. That being said, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification from the Durham Center on the UTEP campus. You're listening to 600 ESPN El Paso. There's nothing better than when Duke Keith, who can not only deliver a legal ID, can also join us here during our coverage. It's nice.
Amazing.
The only thing better would have been if you would have tossed it to yourself, which didn't happen. But hey, it's okay. And, excited nonetheless about you being one of our voices and also being here. And you're also one of the few people that could say 25 years ago when you first got here, you were inside of this athletic department. This is exactly where you were. And
27 years ago.
27 years ago. So you got your UTEP start here, and things continuing to go from there.
Absolutely. Now, this is the first hire at AD since 1998 when Bob Stoll was brought in. That's a long time. I mean, honestly, 19 years is a long time. But being somebody who was in the athletic department back in the day, being somebody who was here in 1990, from 90 to 92, I was the assistant athletic media relations director. I saw the transformation Bob Stoll brought to this department, and it was truly night and day in terms of the way UTEP did things before, the way it could afford to do things. And honestly, UTEP it's been on its back heel the entire time. I was here when the NCAA threw down the sanctions on Don Haskins' basketball program for just minor infractions, but since there was a lack of institutional control and UTEP did not have the personnel in place to keep track of NCAA rules, which was something all the other bigger athletic departments were really starting to do, there was, they didn't dot their I's, they didn't cross their T's in their paperwork, and the NCAA slammed them for that. UTEP, I mean, just for lack of resources or whatever, it's always had to fight its way uphill. And Bob Stoll really turned things around. If you think about it, hired the first football coach in forever, since probably the Border Conference days, to help win him a conference title. Gary Nord did in 2000. First sellout with Mike Price as head coach. Other than Bob Stoll, he's hired the only 3 other football coaches, and I'm talking about Bulls other than the Sun Bowl, who've taken UTEP to a bowl game. And back then it was Mike Rumbelow in the 50s, and they played here. They played in El Paso in the Sun Bowl. He's hired the only 3 other guys to take this university to a bowl game.
That's true.
The legacy, I think, and you could talk about being here in a place 19 years and things may be getting a little stale, but I can tell you from personal experience, Bob Stoll has really done a great job bringing this athletic department to this point. We'll see what Jim Center does from here.
The hardest part about Bob Stoll is the end, and that's the most unfortunate thing. Is with all the success that's taken place, the end, which has been a winless football team, a fan base that has grown more and more frustrated with the lack of success, and a disconnect. And that is ultimately what now Center's going to have to take over and right the ship and hope that he's able to get this right.
And we may have the man himself coming over.
I'm happy. Now he's finished all of the obligations, and like we told everybody earlier, as we've been broadcasting live since about 10 minutes before 2 o'clock here for the introductory press conference for Jim Center, we'll get the opportunity to have UTEP's newest director of athletics join us and give us some thoughts to everything he's had a chance to talk about and then some. And that's really the idea right now, is trying to get the entire community as positive as he is and go from there. So that's ultimately it. As folks, your wait is over. After the last hour plus, Jim Center, the new director of athletics for UTEP, is here, and we'll get a chance to spend a few minutes with the newest hire here at UTEP. First off, Jim, congratulations on the opportunity, and just listening to the press conference that you spent 30 or 40 minutes with earlier today, a lot of positive outlook, positive approach, and ultimately, I guess we'll be trying to spread that positive outlook amongst not only the school and the hires, but the entire city of El Paso as well.
Steve, you couldn't be more right. Obviously, that's a big part of who I am. I want to surround myself with people that are positive and see the bright side of everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a realist. I recognize, challenges are challenges. What we've got to do is we've got to look at those challenges as opportunities, right? That's really all they are. Opportunities to be more creative, to work harder, to engage people in a more meaningful way that resonates with them, right? Find the secret sauce, if you will. And I like talking to coaches all the time about, hey, listen, what's your secret sauce? If you don't have some, you better get some. Right, because something's got to make you different and special. And I can tell you this: it's real easy to be negative. It's real easy to focus on what you don't have. It's real easy to go, "Woe is me." That doesn't sell anything, right? That causes people to say, "No thanks. Whatever it is you got, I don't want it." So we're going to be positive.
And I think that really not only the community itself, but it starts with the student body. Because if you can get the students to buy in, which hasn't happened in a while, and get them to start attending games, get interested in the whole program again, and then get the town to start wearing more orange and really embodying what UTEP has been like in the past but hasn't been like recently, it'll start to go from there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, when you think about it, this is an incredible place to live. It's a great city. We have so much going for us right here. We've got to tell that story more and more and more. And then, like anything, we've got to remind people more of that, right? And so UTEP has got probably the single greatest sports presence here in the marketplace, is my sense right now. So we have this incredible opportunity to sell all things related to UTEP athletics. And so everything from the impact that we have in the community to the impact that we have on student athletes, the impact that we could have on future prospective student athletes, to the young people in this community on both sides of the border. And when you talk in those terms, when you engage people where they're at, right, good things will happen.
What are some of the things that you see about the community? Because, I mean, obviously, they just got done with an 0-12 football season, in decreasing crowds and all of that. It's a tide that you have to reverse. What do you see in this community that would get people, you think, fired up to come to UTEP football or men's basketball for that matter?
Yeah. Well, Duke, you ask a good question. So let me just start out by saying this. I recognize that I haven't been living in this community. I don't know all the ins and outs and the nuances related to UTEP athletics and the community as a whole, but I just know this. There's enough people here. We only have to get about 10% of the people invested in UTEP athletics, right, between Juarez and here in El Paso, and there's not a single venue that we can't fill to the brim, right? And so all you got to do is win the hearts and minds and souls of about 10% of the people in this community, right? And so how do you do that? Well, I know everybody's a marketer. We all talk about marketing strategies, but at the end of the day, I'm big into guerrilla marketing. I'm big into grassroots marketing. So when I say that, what do you mean? I can tell you this, we're never going to be able to spend enough money making media buys and putting up billboards or ads on TV and the radio and all those things to convince people to come here. We've got to go out and connect with people on a very, very basic human level that says, you matter, I care about you, right? And we've got to build relationships so that you want to get involved and get engaged.
And that's the easiest way to try to improve what has been a disconnect in recent years between the athletic programs and the community. And you mentioned town hall meetings. There's probably no other better way to hear frustrations of fans than to hear them come directly out of their mouths.
Are you ready for that, Jim?
Yeah, I'm ready. And trust, that's why I said, well, you better tape your ankles and get ready to hear what you're going to hear, right? Because people don't have a problem with sharing where you're failing. And the inevitability of that is there are some things that you can do something about, some things you can't do things about. And we've got to be able to sort through what those are. But people want to know that at least they were heard. There was a mechanism for them to share their frustrations or share how they think they can make it better, make a difference.
What about, you talk about guerrilla marketing, that's interesting to me. Is it something you believe in, like the viral stuff, a lot of the internet things, or do you have specific things in mind when you say that?
Well, I don't want to give any secrets away at this point in time. What I do want to know, or what I do want to do here, is ask a lot of questions, and I want to listen intently on what people say. And what's going to happen is, more than likely, every time I've done this, there will be 3 to 5 salient points that people say, you've got to address this. This needs to be better. We need to see this. And I know one of the ones that you're going to hear more than any single thing is, you've got to win. I've got that, right? And we'll win here, but it's a process, and it takes some time, right? So we're not going to do it overnight. We're not going to take shortcuts. We're going to do it the right way. So you've got to respect the process. In the meantime, we've got to be doing all the things so that we're ready to capitalize on success when it does come.
You spent your years prior to El Paso with the Citadel, knowing it's a military institution. How big will your focus be at Fort Bliss to try to really get all of the soldiers and people actively there into UTEP athletics while they're stationed in El Paso?
Well, it's one of the first entities I'm going to go out and get on base, and I'm going to talk to their leadership and ask them, how can we support them, right? And then how can we engage them in a meaningful way that causes them to say, while I'm on base and while I'm stationed here, I'm going to adopt UTEP athletics, and I'm going to be a part of everything that they do. And once again, I don't know what activities have been done and in what ways they've reached out to the leadership on the base, but I intend to be an integral part of that.
When you talk about media sales and things like that, I'm always wondering why, especially a school on the border, doesn't focus more south of the border and into Mexico. I know that UTEP, I mean, honestly, they're just trying to hold things down here in El Paso. Is there something that you are looking forward to doing in terms of like international marketing, putting your name out there into what is actively?
Great question, and that's probably where I feel the least comfortable talking, because I don't know, number one, what are the rules associated with it.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're allowed to do, but there's got to be huge potential with, I believe, 1.7 million, 2 million people south of the border for us to engage. And I don't know all the demographics. I know there's tens of thousands of people that come across the bridge every day and eat and work and go to school at UTEP and participate as they add to the vibrancy of our community here in El Paso. And so I've got to talk to the people who have spheres of influence in Juarez and say, how do we engage that community? And what kinds of things can we do that would cause people to say, that's my school too. We're going to go support intercollegiate athletics at UTEP.
You mentioned that you were told UTEP will be competitive when it comes to paying coaches, and you've got a football head coaching hire to make immediately. Competitive could be a lot of things, but UTEP has always been on the low end of the FBS spectrum when it comes to football coaches. In your opinion, has the bar kind of been set where you're going to have to pay a coach $1 million to try to get some kind of a name or a quality, or can you essentially find a diamond in the rough where you're not spending nearly that kind of money, but you're still getting a good result?
Well, I don't think you have to spend that kind of money. Now, with that being said, you have to be competitive, right? People don't want to be at the bottom of the pay scale, but they do want to know that they will be compensated fairly. And really what you want to look at is when you reward people for doing a good job. And so what do I mean by that? Well, build incentives into the contract so that people could earn maybe twice what their salary is, right, if they knock it out of the park. The truth is, when you look around America today, there are all kinds of universities who are paying their head football coaches, or basketball coaches for that matter, millions and millions of dollars annually, and they're still firing them. I mean, these are programs that are paying at the top of the pay scale, right? Yet they're still firing. So you can't equate paying the highest dollar with a coach winning and getting it done. Now, in fairness, I got to tell you this. Just because a coach gets fired at a school because they didn't win enough, that doesn't mean that they all of a sudden showed up and have become a dumb football or dumb basketball coach. That is not the case. But there's something to be said for someone going into a place that it's the right fit at the right time. You never know until you get there, what you're going to find, right, in terms of the talent level, the strength of the league. All those kinds of things are factors.
We only have a couple minutes left. I'll throw one question at you, and then Duke can wrap things up as well. You're not going to mention names for football coaching hires. I understand that. One name I wanted to ask you about, however, worked for you, and that's Mike Houston. Very successful at the Citadel, moved on to James Madison, has been just as successful over there. What has been the secret to a guy that was a high school football coach suddenly going into college ball and immediately achieving success at not just one but two institutions?
Yeah. So, well, let me just say this. I want to make sure that everybody hears this loud and clear. I've now talked to Mike Houston, and he is coaching a team. He's a #1 ranked team in FCS right now. We'll be playing a game this coming Saturday, so best of luck to coach. But what I can tell you is we're looking for someone like a Mike Houston, okay? Someone who basically has demonstrated that they can win everywhere that they've gone, right? They have their own secret sauce, and they're great people, have great integrity. They have great recruiting skills. So in other words, they can evaluate talent and recruit people to come. They know exactly what they want to do offensively, defensively, and they can get their kids to play at a high level. That's the kind of coach that we're looking for. Mike Houston's done that at Lenore-Ryan. He did it at the Citadel. Now he's doing it at James Madison. Totally different offenses, different staff, different defenses. That's the kind of guy we want to find.
Jim, you've been great. We appreciate you spending some time with us. We'll look forward to getting to know you more and working with you around here in El Paso. And
likewise, Steve.
Excited about the future with you here at UTEP.
Thank you very much. Go Miners. Thanks, Duke.
All right. Appreciate it, Jim. Thank you. Thank
Jim
you.
Center, as we get a chance to wrap things up right now and send it back to ESPN Radio and the ESPN programming. Duke, any final thoughts before we sign off out here at the Durham Center?
Well, we definitely have heard quite a bit, I think, from Jim in terms of what he wants to do, the things that he thinks can happen here. And engaging, I think, the community is going to be a huge deal because, frankly, that hasn't happened, I don't think, lately. And you would probably know a little bit better than I do, following this on a daily basis and hearing from folks on a daily basis. But that's going to be different. And I think El Paso is going to be happy to see that.
I do too, and I think right now more than anything, as I'm completely out of this.
Yeah,
camera,
you were totally out of the shot.
I know. It is more than anything. He answered the last question. Great. You want those Mike Houstons to be here in El Paso.
Yeah.
Even if they're not a big name now, they could turn into a name like that down the road. But more than anything, he's getting an opportunity to take over an athletic department that we've talked about it earlier. A lot of highs over the years with Bob Stoll, and now not so high. So trying to ultimately bring this whole athletic department back to where it's been in the past.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, and we have seen it. We've seen the football stadium filled. We've seen the basketball arena. I mean, from the time I was in Albuquerque all through the '80s, all I did was watch my Lobos get creamed by Don Haskins and the UTEP Miners in front of 12,222. Those days have been long gone. I would imagine conference affiliation, all of those things are going to be on the table as things progress. But right now, it's just engaging the community and getting people excited about coming to a UTEP game.
I've been excited to have you with us. Thanks so much,
you.
Duke. Appreciate you being a part of this. And
thank you.
Let's do it again the next time we have a football hire during the week.
That would be nice.
Hopefully
Let's do it again.
sooner rather than later. All right, we'll take
Thanks,
you back
Sal.
to ESPN Radio. Sal Montes will join me in 45 minutes for Sports Talk Live from Border City Ale House. In the meantime, right back to ESPN's coverage on 600 ESPN El Paso.